night when Archangel Michael descended to confront the Prince of Persia, a terribly powerful demon, he allowed no angel to enter his territory, let alone perform miracles. There, Daniel was waiting for a message from God, but it never arrived. Gabriel, sent to deliver it, had already been fighting for 21 days, trapped in Babylon, in Persia, unable to get through due to the immense evil power dominating the region. The Prince of Persia, whose role was to influence and govern nations and other demons, was preventing Gabriel from fulfilling his mission. God, seeing that his message was not reaching his servant, sent Michael. The archangel descended like lightning. Upon sensing his presence, the Prince of Persia trembled. With a gaze that exuded thunder, Michael proclaimed, "Do you dare to obstruct the message of the Most High?" Overcome with terror, the Prince of Persia could not resist Archangel Michael. With a single move, Michael defeated the Prince of Persia and his demons, allowing Gabriel to finally complete his mission. If you've made it this far, don't forget to follow me and like the video so you don't miss out.
Now that was some utter bullshit. You see, you cannot trust these people when they read their own Bible, that they will make up things that are not even in their book. So according to that creator's video, Michael came down to fight the Prince of Persia, and which allowed Gabriel to be able to leave and go and talk to Daniel. And Michael looked at him with thunder in his eyes, and the Prince of Persia trembled with just the look of Michael. That's not in your Bible at all. Not even slightly. The only trembling that happened in this book is a trembling that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So when you read Daniel chapter 10, you're going to get to a part where Daniel sees the angel Gabriel. He says that he's the only one who saw him, and the other people who were with him didn't see him, but they started and felt a trembling anyway and ran away. Why the hell a cold wind blew by and they felt cold and they went and ran away? What the hell? They felt some energy and they ran away? It makes absolutely no sense that they didn't see nothing, but they felt the trembling. This energy was just so intense. Kind of like how Balaam didn't see the dang on angel Gabriel, but the donkey did. But Balaam didn't feel no trembling. He didn't feel nothing that made him tremble. He just kept on beating the hell out of that donkey, didn't he? Now, according to... So the creator of that video is just making that part up when he's saying that the Prince of Persia was trembling and Daniel's face was like, he had the lightning, came down like lightning. He's stealing that from the fact that it says that Daniel, when he looked at Gabriel, that Gabriel's eyes were like lightning, or his face was like lightning. So he's taking aspects that they said for Gabriel and putting it on Michael and trying to make it seem like there was this fierce battle, because at the end of 10, he says that Michael is the only one who can fight against the Prince of Persia. But here's the thing that's funny. In this message to Daniel, Gabriel tells him that the Prince of Persia will cause all these people to do all these wicked things and so on and so forth. And then behind him will come the Prince of Greece, and they will still be in control, which many people think that this is prophecies, but it's not prophecy. It was easy at the time frame that Daniel was supposedly alive that the Persians were fighting against the Greeks. And so to make the claim that the Greeks were going to defeat the Persians eventually was just it was like in the 1970s and 80s, people were predicting that the Soviet Union would crash. And how were they able to do that? Because they were looking at how much they were spending on military. They were looking at how they weren't able to feed their people. They were looking at how their economy was crashing every year, getting worse and worse and worse. So being able to predict that the Soviet Union was eventually going to crash was not easy. It was not hard. My economics teacher predicted it. My history teachers predicted it, and it happened. Does that make them prophets? No. You can read the tea leaves most of the time throughout history. So therefore, to predict the Greek Empire as it was expanding would eventually conquer the Persians wasn't that hard. Plus, Daniel wasn't written, the entirety of Daniel was not written by Daniel, and Daniel was written after the Babylonian captivity and after they were under Greek control. So Daniel was not written just prior to, but it is written for over a 200 plus year period, which would encapsulate that time frame. So the prophecies of Daniel are not necessarily prophecies. They're just telling you what had happened in the past, but making it seem like it is prophecies. But back to this falsified information, you see, this is why we study this for ourselves, because that video is kind of like how a preacher would get up there and tell you something, and then you would go and repeat this over and over again about how the Prince of Persia was frightening. But in actuality, this is looked upon, because these people were henotheistic at the time frame, that the God of the Persian people, the God of this Prince of Persia, whether it's Shamash, or you can look at it through the Zoroastrian perspective and say that it is an angel of Ahura Mazda or Agramenia, that the God Yahweh could not defeat Agramenia, or the God Yahweh couldn't defeat Ahura Mazda or Shamash. And most archaeologists say that it is Shamash that it is speaking of when it's saying the Prince of Persia. But he couldn't defeat it. This God is losing against this Persian deity, and is going to lose against the Greek deities as well. Whatever, if we're talking about, if it's Ares or Diana, he's going to lose against them too, because the Greeks are going to come and whoop y'all ass and subjugate y'all, and you'll be a vassal state under the Greeks in the same way you were under the Persians and the Babylonians and the Assyrians and the Akkadians and the Kemetic, the Egyptians, because this land has always, for the most part, only a few times where it lasted for a couple of hundred years where they were an independent nation. They have always been a conquered people. And this is a sad sob story of a conquered people who is always looking and hoping and praying that some deity is going to rescue them, instead of getting off your assets and rescuing yourself. Yourself. If you think about the entirety of the Bible, they have always, these people who created this, the Torah, the Tanakh, the Messianic word, the New Testament, these are people who have always been in a conquered state for the most part. And let's look at it. I want to think about it like this. They were conquered by the Egyptians for almost 3,000 years in this region, in this territory of the Levant. They were conquered prior to that by the Akkadians and the Sumerians. After the Egyptians, they were conquered by, after the Egyptians, they had about 200 years of creating their own nation. This would be between like 1200 BCE to, well, not even, yeah, about 1200 BCE until about 800 BCE. So they had about 400 years of their own nation. But then they were conquered by the Assyrians. And then after the Assyrians, they were conquered by the Babylonians. Then after the Babylonians, they were conquered by the Persians. And then after the Persians, they were conquered by the Greeks. Because, see, they didn't have a time frame where they ruled. The Persians were conquered by the Greeks, and so the Greeks inherited that territory. So they were conquered by the Greeks. And then they had the Maccabean time frame, which was about 100, 150, 170 years of independence. But then they were conquered by the Romans. And then after the Romans, it was the Arabs, and then the Europeans, and back to the Arabs, and back to the Europeans, back to the Arabs, back to the Europeans, over like 7 different exchanges before Israel became an independent state in 1947, I believe. So they've always been a conquered people in a conquered land. So all their stories are about them being disobedient, and God is punishing them because they've always been a conquered people, and they're just trying to hold out, as they used to say in the Christian church, they're trying to hold out hope that this God is going to rescue them, and it's become a religion of the conquered. That's what Christianity and Judaism is, a religion of the conquered. And this whole story is telling them how they're going to remain a conquered people. But that creator just went off the rails and making up his own shit, because it never talks about this fight between the Prince of Persia and Michael, and how the Prince of Persia was all scared and all that kind of bullshit. They're just making up some lies to make people feel better. But what do you guys think? Always remember, you have to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations.